Page 1. VOX. A program for what matters. Electoral program for the general elections of June 23, 2023. www.votabarscal.es. Page 2. Page 3. Vote what matters. Electoral program for the general elections July 23, 2023. VOX. Page 4. Page 5. Index. Page 6. Equality. Page 7. 1. Equality among Spanish people. Pedro Sanchez will be remembered as the president who was tough and implacable with honest Spaniards and soft with criminals, enemies of Spain and foreign elites. His concessions to separatism and his commitment to multi-level Spain have only benefited the regional elites and have allowed the consolidation of an unfair model that hinders the prosperity and well-being of the Spanish people. Far from bringing administrations closer to citizens, the autonomous state has only served to impose new centralisms that seek artificial homogenization and that threaten the rich diversity of Spain and its provincial plurality, raise artificial barriers between Spaniards and impose administrative chaos contrary to the solidarity between people and territories. His desire for power and the complicity of the partitocratic consensus have allowed the entry of imported agendas that promote dissolving ideologies that attack common sense and that only seek to deteriorate the ties between Spaniards by dividing us and confronting us. Page 8. Our measures. 1. We will promote an administratively decentralized unitary state that is capable of promoting equality and solidarity among all Spaniards regardless of where they reside in Spain. The political decentralization developed by the autonomous state, far from bringing the administrations closer to the citizens, has created new centralisms that have used their capacity to always legislate for the benefit of the autonomous elites and to the detriment of the Spanish people. 2. While we achieve this objective, we propose the immediate return to the state of powers in education, health, security and justice. We will limit the autonomous legislative capacity as much as possible to end with 17 different regulatory systems, and we will implement all the necessary measures to guarantee equality and the rights of all Spaniards. 3. We will work in all areas to end the artificial borders created by the autonomous communities which, in addition to attacking the rights of Spaniards, impede the social and economic development of our nation. We will undertake the unification of processes and the interoperability of procedures in order to guarantee optimal functioning of public services with management laws and coordination and promoting the high state inspection. 4. We will eliminate all legal and fiscal privileges protected by supposed historical rights that cause inequality between territories. VOX respects and defends civil jurisdictions in their private aspect, family, marriage, inheritance, which have been denaturalized and degenerated into an unfair system of privileges and fiscal advantages, of a public financial and tax nature. Page 9. 5. We will guarantee the use of Spanish throughout the national territory. We will eliminate any form of discrimination between Spaniards based on language, and we will put an end to the linguistic apartheid that creates first- and second-class Spaniards. The rich diversity of Spain, its provincial and regional plurality, are threatened by an autonomous state that tries to create false identities that divide us and confront us by trying to artificially homogenize territories. One of the greatest cultural treasures of our country are the different languages spoken in its regions and provinces, and which have been used brutally by separatism as a segregating element to create barriers between Spaniards. 6. We will recover the vitality and autonomy of the municipalities. To do this, they must be freed from the inefficient autonomous structure and the exercise of unnecessary powers so that all their strength can be concentrated on promoting safe places for coexistence between neighbors, job creation, and neighborhood initiatives. 7. We will demand that all public administrations, at any territorial level, provide in-person attention, without an appointment and, at least, in Spanish. 8. We will signpost, at least in Spanish, all highways and urban roads in the national territory. Page 10. 9. Progressive suppression, through reduction of powers and personnel, of the regional police forces and incorporation of their members into the national bodies. Until it becomes effective, real salary equality between the National Police Corps, Civil Guard and regional police will be guaranteed. 10. We will promote a law that protects all possible victims of violence in the domestic sphere. We will increase penalties for rapists and sexual offenders, and we will strengthen measures against pedophilia and child pornography. Spaniards have seen how their rights have been curtailed in various areas while the partitocratic consensus with its imported agendas imposed laws that violate common sense, making us more unequal and increasingly unprotecting men and women. We will repeal the comprehensive law on gender violence, which enshrines criminal asymmetry and inequality between men and women and attacks the basic pillars of the rule of law. 11. Elimination of all gender legislation that establishes labor differences between Spaniards based on their sex, race, or sexual orientation or identity, such as quotas, preference in hiring or prevalence in the event of a tie in a competition. Instead of gender quotas, equality plans, or hiring obligations, we will promote policies that allow family stability and combat the maternal gap. 12. As a prior step to the repeal of these destructive laws, we will apply or demand to apply Article 92 of the Constitution to consult the Spanish people about a political decision of special relevance such as putting an end to this violation of equality, rights, and freedoms, and the presumption of innocence of all Spaniards. Page 11. 13. In access to the public service, with special attention to positions where physical conditions take priority, as well as in sports, it will be ensured that no woman is discriminated against men who perceive themselves as women and intend to occupy spaces reserved for them. 14. Repeal of ideological laws that do not protect people, but rather collectivize the individual and subject them to the demands of interest groups, whether LGBTIQ+ or trans law. We will guarantee the impossibility of hormonal treatments and sex change surgery in minors. 15. We will abolish the Ministry of Equality, which is unnecessary in its functions, unfair and ideological in the political means that it undertakes to serve them and onerous in its structure, as well as we will dedicate that expense to the improvement of essential public services such as health, justice, security or the educational system. 16. The state of autonomy has brought with it a consolidation of the welfare state of politicians and all the entities and organizations that have supported it during the last decades. Thus, at the same time that public services were deteriorating and Spaniards were becoming more unequal among themselves, political parties, unions, employers and other political entities received all kinds of privileges accompanied by totally disproportionate financing paid by all Spaniards with the sole purpose of consolidating their privileged status. Page 12. We will suppress all ideological organizations and subsidies to parties, unions, employers' associations, and other political entities. There will be no real equality between Spaniards as long as a privileged caste lives off the efforts of ordinary Spaniards. 17. We will put an end to the current way of distributing European funds, turning its back on the true interests of the Spanish people and conditioned to globalist ideological impositions. Page 13. Some of VOX's most outstanding actions on equality among Spanish people. Non-law proposal for the re-centralization of institutions in order to reduce the waste caused by the inefficiency of the autonomous state through the return to the state of powers in matters of education, health, security and justice, as well as all those powers that are being used to undermine the unity of the nation and equality among all Spaniards, March 2023. Non-legal proposal that urges establishing that knowledge of the co-official language of the regional administration is not an impediment to access to public service, June 2021. PNL for the maintenance and reinforcement of the presence and powers of the Civil Guard throughout Spain in order to reverse the process of transferring powers in matters of road safety that have been used by the governments of the Popular Party and the Socialist Party as bargaining chip with separatist parties during the last decades, March 2023. Throughout the legislature, total amendments and unconstitutionality appeals have been presented against the liberticidal laws approved by the government of Pedro Sanchez in matters of gender ideology, the abortion law or such as the trans laws or the only yes is yes law.